Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name's CJ for those of you who haven't been here before. Today we're going to be seeing a really old school machine, an E21. It's got a super unique wrap, super unique engine, so let's go find out more about it. That thing, oh, this is one of my favourite cars I think I've done. Honestly, rotary engine and everything just makes you smile. That little... So how long have you owned the car? You've had it about 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years ago, near enough to the month actually.
How long has it been in its rotary form?
So it'll be 3 years this winter.
Well, that's done really well. How many miles do you think you've done on the rotary engine? Because you're not afraid to take it around the country, are you? I've seen you all over.
Try and get out a lot to shows and stuff. I guess I'll probably do 3,000 or 4,000 miles each summer.
I mean, that's not really bad at all, is it? Like, they're so notorious for just people worrying about their reliability and stuff, but I think that many miles just sort of shows that...
Yeah, I've not had any breakdowns in it really at all. It's never been on the back of a pickup truck. The only time my dad had to tow me back once was an overheating issue.
Ah, got you.
Which I actually caused by...
Isn't that always the way?
Which I caused by making it run lean. That was the start of this year.
So what inspired you to do a rotary engine? Because, I mean, this is pretty much the only one in the UK, possibly one of the only ones in the world.
Yeah, so we had an RX8 as a track car. When we came to get rid of the RX8, it was just so hard to sell. No one wants an RX8 as a track car.
Sure.
It was battered. It was worth about 400 or 500 quid. So I said to my dad, I'll buy your half of the track car. Use the engine in my car.
I mean, that's a pretty brave thing to do, considering... I mean, I suppose you didn't know what you were getting yourself into. No,
I mean, looking back, I don't think I'd do it again if I was given the opportunity to.
Just because it was too much time, too much money, or just...
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that rotary engines have got their issues. It's definitely a fun engine. I don't regret doing it.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, there was a lot of time and effort from me going into just working out things that had never been done before, basically.
Because I mean, that's the thing. So I used to have an old Civic which had a K20 motor from an EP3 in, but that's not at all uncommon.
Yeah.
Like, lots of people have done it, lots of off-the-shelf parts, whereas for you, everything's having to be a custom solution.
Exactly, yeah.
To try and work it out. I mean, what custom work has had to go into it to actually get that engine to fit?
So starting with the engine mounts, the driver's side engine mount I had to make a plate up for.
Sure.
That was fairly simple. I used a standard Bmw rubber, standard subframe, and I just made this mount so it joined the engine to the Bmw rubber, basically.
Absolutely.
And that was only sort of an afternoon's work. The passenger side, I actually used this standard RX8 aluminium engine mounting arm.
Sure.
And it sort of lined up near enough perfectly with the chassis round in the engine bay. So just drilled the hole. That's just
an absolute stroke of luck, isn't it?
Drilled the hole there, fitted a little rubber mount, which I think is actually an E36 gearbox mount. Okay. And then the gearbox, they have a really weird like brace bar that goes to the rear diff on the RX8. Okay. There was no way I was going to fit that in the BMW exhaust and diff tunnel, so I just used, similar to the BMW, a brace bar across the gearbox tunnel underneath. Cool. And just sat the gearbox straight down onto that and solid mounted it.
Amazing. So then past the gearbox you've obviously got the prop shaft, so what combination of parts was used there to get that to run?
So the RX8 has a spline section which goes into the gearbox, and then it's carbon fibre from there back. So
can't really add carbon fibre.
Yeah, doing anything with carbon fibre would have been a nightmare. It was actually only about 2 inches too short to fit the entire RX8 prop shaft, which was a shame.
Wouldn't that have just been perfect?
Yeah. So I just cut the spline off at the front of the prop shaft. I did have some issues initially with the prop shaft, which were all solved in the end by fitting like a rubber donut ring from a BMW.
Absolutely.
So the spline section is welded to a three-piece bit from the rubber, and then the standard BMW prop shaft has a three-piece which also bolts to the rubber. And I've had no issues with it since then, so it's been pretty good.
What's the diff? RX8 or?
It's actually just a standard BMW diff. That was quite a shame. The RX8 has an LSD from standard, and that went to scrap with the car.
There was no way you could have used it.
Part of me really wanted to use the whole RX8 rear diff, rear subframe, but it would have got into a lot more fabrication then.
Yeah, a lot more. You're going to have to make more space in the tunnel and things at the rear.
From a driving point of view, one of my next upgrades is an LSD of some sort.
I mean, do they even make a limited slipper for an E21?
They do make them, but they're rare, and then they tend to need rebuilds even when you find them. There's a few solutions using the inside of an LSD from an E36.
Got you.
So they can be sort of modified to fit in the diff case from an E21. That's probably the route I'll go.
So the engine's out of an RX8, which was the 230 brake model, we said?
Yes, that's it, yeah.
Cool. How do you kind of find that power in this older chassis?
So when it was rolling roaded, it made about 175, I think.
Okay.
But that was with some issues.
Okay.
Pretty happy it'd be running about 185, 190 now, I should think.
Sure.
And while we all want more power, I find it really usable in this car. Anyone who's driven old cars, 37-year-old cars before, will tell you that they're not great at speed and they're not great with big power.
Stop brakes.
Yeah, so...
Love that. Yeah, you couldn't go too much more crazy, could you? Like, you'll end up killing yourself.
You'd always say you want more power, but it's an expensive game with a rotary engine.
Of course it is.
And this is a lot of fun in this car, which is what we all want from a car, really, isn't it?
It's certainly not slow.
No. It's a fun car to drive. That was always my sort of aim with it, really.
I imagine these are quite light, aren't they, the cars?
Yeah, I have had it on a weigh scale before. I think it tipped about 950 with me in it.
Yeah, see, under a ton car.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's old, but then it's BMW, so they've tried to build it well as well. But yeah, it's not heavy.
It's a really good power to weight ratio, really.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing with the swap, in your opinion?
Probably wiring, I guess.
Yeah, what a nightmare, yeah.
And I did spend a lot of hours going out to the garage to work on the car, and I ended up just sitting there looking through wiring diagrams, not actually touching the car.
Just staring at them, just thinking, what have I done?
And even now, wiring is probably one of the bits that still has minor niggles. I've tried to keep it RX8 wiring throughout, so there's not much BMW wiring left in the car. Yeah, so the RX8 clocks, the RX8 fuse box, RX8 ECU, and basically I've just run the BMW headlights, tail lights, etc. off the RX8 wiring. It just seemed like the simplest way to do it, rather than running sort of two electronic systems in parallel.
Yeah, sure.
Ended up with two fuse boxes, two wiring looms inside. It's just been a bit of a nightmare. So that was probably the hardest part on a personal level. There were some tricky bits to get around. The prop shaft being one of them. Like I say, had issues with it.
Sure.
Vibration stuff to start with. That was a bit of a head scratcher. And then the exhaust manifold. That would have been very difficult on my own. So that was one part I copped out and
had to pay someone to do.
I paid someone to do it. It was very tight down that side of the engine bay. The steering column runs right in front of the exhaust ports. So I took it to Jack Tonkin.
What a legend! Do you know what, he'd done a lot of work for me actually.
Yeah, and I basically gave him the whole car with the engine in situ. and said make an exhaust manifold to fit there.
We've literally just been cruising around for about the last half an hour, just having a good chat, just no front plate and that jack plate at the rear, which I love that plate he's got, which I don't know if you can tell from some of the stickers, but Daniel is actually a vegan, so to have a tofu number plate at the rear, just honestly, this cracks me up. Something I just wanted to show you guys, just because I thought it was a bit funny. I spent about 10 minutes earlier trying to get out of this thing because I was trying to think, like, where the fuck's the door handle? So just underneath here is a little lever for me to pull, and that's how I get out. Apparently I'm not the slowest at being able to get that, but I'm not the quickest, so it doesn't surprise me. So I just want to talk about the livery on this thing. So the car's obviously wrapped, so how did that come about?
So it was a local elective last year, 2018. A company called Funky Fish offered a free wrap as the first raffle prize.
Yeah, sure.
So bought 5 raffle tickets and was luckily picked out as the winner.
That's so good. So literally you've got a wrap that would have cost how much?
Probably in the region of 2,000, I guess, when you take into account design work and everything.
For a £5?
Yeah, brilliant.
That looks so good. And it's based off, I know we were talking about it earlier, so you said the original kind of black and red.
Yeah, so the
Advan livery?
Yeah, the original Advan livery. You see a lot on old Jap cars and stuff. I just wanted to change the colour scheme up a little bit.
Absolutely love it.
Big fan of white cars. The green was supposed to be, in my mind, quite a subtle green, but because of the limited vinyl choice we had, I sort of bit the bullet and went for this in-your-face green, but I think it's pulled it off really well.
Oh, I love it. There's some custom parts that I just want to talk about that have just had me absolutely in stitches. So the first one, the side skirts, so they look fantastic, look like a quality piece. You'd think perhaps a nice aftermarket piece, but you'd be surprised to know. What are they from, Dan?
They're made with half hexagonal guttering.
So literally just some plastic guttering. It looks great. Dan is so resourceful. Let me show you guys. The rear lights. So I'm guessing they don't make like an off-the-shelf custom clears for these.
No, clear rear lights from E21. There's been a bit of talk of someone manufacturing some, but they've never come to light that I've seen. And I just love all clear rears, so I thought, why not make my own?
How did you go about making your own lights?
So essentially I took the light cover off, and there's like a framework behind the original red plastic.
Sure.
So I had to cut the red plastic off, which was quite fiddly to do it well. And then I was left with a framework, which you can just about see behind the clears here. You've got a couple of supports here, and then the outer frame. And then I just cut the fluorescent light cover to the right size, bent it round. It's siliconed on, but I've also got a couple of screws just to hold it because the silicone wasn't as strong as I'd hoped.
It looks so good. Okay, so I'm guessing that this black trim you just masked up and sprayed yourself.
That's right, yeah. Just to, I'd have liked to have actually had it all clear, but with a finish on the edge and a bit of the silicone, disappointingly I had to sort of hide it somehow. But yeah, I just masked it up, black spray paint around the outside just to give it a sort of framed look.
I love all the subtle details on this car. So not only have you relatively done this car, I suppose, within the cheapest possible budget that you could. So I'm not saying the quality's bad by any means, but certainly, you know, you've tried to do everything yourself where you could.
Oh, yeah.
So for example, a subtle little detail which might have easily gone over-missed, or overlooked I should say. So obviously the original 3 Series car, but I don't remember BMW ever doing a 1.3. So Dan has cheekily cut what was, I suppose, a 1.8 badge?
Yes, it was a 318 with a small section here just cut out with the Dremel, and then the eye added as well, just for the fuel injected.
Of course, obviously being an original carb engine. So these rear arches are not stock, of course. So, did you make these, Dan?
Yeah, so originally they have a small flared metal arch. When I won the vinyl wrap,
sure.
The original arches were getting a little bit crusty, and I decided that rather than wrap over something that wasn't perfect, I'd cut away the original arch and basically make them again. I was going to go for something subtle, but then these are Mark II Golf Boomerang reps.
Okay.
I picked them up fairly cheap, being reps obviously.
Yeah, that means more to you than that does me.
And they weren't far off fitting really. The original shape of them followed the wheel line round quite a lot more down to here.
Sure.
So I pie cut the arches,
yeah,
flexed them out, refilled them from the back, filled them from the front, just to get them to the shape to match the E21's body lines really. So the front bumper is actually from a later model 3 Series, an E36, a lot of people are familiar with. It's like the M-sport bumper that came on them. I wanted to, with the arches, I wanted to keep it as sort of a body kit kind of theme with it, I guess.
Sure.
So the standard bumper is sort of like a valance that sort of fades away under the car.
Sure.
Has a little lip on it, but I wanted to bring the front out with a bigger bumper of some sort. Modernises it slightly, but hopefully not too much.
No, I think it's spot on. I think it almost looks kind of like track car, rally car of the age. Like...
That was kind of what I was going for with it. It didn't take too much to fit really. I mean, it was probably about 2 inches wider, so that flexed in there fairly easily.
Quite nicely.
And the standard E36 bumper has a rubber strip on it similar to this, but I cut all of that off just shy of here, and then obviously kept the E21's big metal bumper.
So these wheels are really cool. They're kind of like really correct to the period, aren't they? So what are they, mate?
Yeah, so they're Volk Racing Rays mesh. They're 14 by 7. They're actually flipped, so I've got a big dish on them to go with the wide arches. So these are the barrels, and then the dishes are on the inside, which are only about 1.5, 2 inches wide.
Are they genuine split rims?
Yeah, they are. So I bought them as a normal set with the dishes on the front. Took them all apart, cleaned them up as much as I could, cleaned up the barrels, and then just reassembled them with the face swapped around.
I love them. They fit the car so much, but I know we've already spoken about what a fucking pain in the arse that is to clean. Like, no one has got time to sit there with a fucking toothbrush and just go through and just make that sparkling. Okay guys, we're all done and we are back at Daniel's place now. I've got to say that was probably one of my favourite videos to do, in terms of that being just a complete car that is modified in terms of a really unique engine swap, the wrap just super unique. I mean, what other Euro cars has a Jap spec livery? Not many at all. I think you guys would be super surprised to hear kind of how much this realistically has actually cost Dan to do. So when you consider the wrap was £5 that he won at a show, the motor was purchased from an RX8 which cost £250. Daniel's estimate is around about just over £1,000 to actually be able to do this swap for something super unique that not really anybody else in the world has got. So I think that's something to be proud of. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit me up in the comments below guys to see you on the next video.